Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the Market Mindset, where we take a look at the psychology behind the moves today so we can better understand tomorrow. And today, we're taking a look at crude oil. Now, crude oil had some pretty good movement overall, and there was a little bit of surprise news out of OPEC earlier talking about how Saudi Arabia was going to be increasing production, and that caused a little bit of a tumble on the way down. Now, with that drop lower and the news helping that move lower, we opened up with a very large gap low. And with that gap down being fundamentally driven doesn't necessarily matter, because when we're looking at price action, we're gapping below not just yesterday, but we're gapping below several days, if not more than a month of data. So this is a big move down for the sellers, and they're likely going to want to follow it up with at least a little bit, right? Put yourself in the shoes of the buyer who was buying into the end of the day yesterday, and then you open up down here, right? Oh, wait a minute. That's not good, right? That's a really bad situation to be in, considering the range yesterday. A lot of fade movement is likely going to occur. News obviously didn't help, but there are going to be a lot of buyers who feel stranded, and they're going to try to exit, and that causes an initial dive lower. Now, after that dive lower, we did find a little bit of a bottom. Very strong bear breakout move, strong bullishness, but bad follow through. Really strong bear for possible continuation, didn't go anywhere, and immediately turned back around. So with that back and forth that we're seeing, we're likely trying to set up a little bit of a range, and the buyers are going to try to stop out these sellers. These sellers are going to have stops above the highs, very common place to have stops, so that's going to be the primary objective for those buyers there for a quick little move higher and a buying opportunity up for a scalp. Once that's hit, what do we have? Well, we have a situation where the buyers, if they didn't take that quick target where it made sense to, it immediately turns around, and now you have a very big disappointed group of buyers, right? The buyers who were looking for the bigger target, looking for this to reverse all the way through the high of day, like we had seen at that point in time on the FDAX, on the FDXM, on gold was starting to do it, that big reversal that all of the other markets were seeing, they're going to be very disappointed by this candle. And the same thing that just happened to the sellers now is likely to happen to the buyers. The sellers tried entering in aggressively at a bad place. They got their stops hit. Now buyers are trying to enter in, and maybe they were a little too greedy, holding on for a bigger target, and it turns right back around against them. Do you think they're going to hang on through a candle that looks like this? Probably not, right? So selling opportunity for a nice drive lower to finish off the buyers, and now we have a trap, right? It's a double trap. We trapped out the sellers only to trap out the buyers, and now we have that nice move down with good continuation, right? Nice breakout candles to the downside, a little bit choppy right there, but we're seeing the sellers take over in the market. Now, we try to put in a bottom once again, but buyers are a little bit more shy. They were just slapped in the face right here. They're not going to be as pumped up about jumping in right this second, and they may wait a little bit, right? So we get a bounce, nice strong bear move down, but couldn't even trigger in the sellers, and that allows a short-term secondary buy to push the move back up, likely just back to the moving average, but we're looking for a short-term scalp. Now, if you're trying to stick with the trend, buying at this point in time, the sellers have already proven they own the market. Not a good thing to be doing, but there will be some buyers that look to jump in here for a quick move up. Again, if you were too greedy, you got slapped in the face. So make sure to keep in mind what's happening. Context is very important when you're looking at this kind of stuff. The sellers have taken control, and now the buyers are likely stuck. We know that the buyers probably bought here and maybe even bought more here, and they're going to try to exit at the least amount of damage they can, and that break-even point is right around that same area of the double bottom low back here. And notice where we find resistance, right? So the buyers who bought here, they were able to buy more here or maybe here, depending on when they got in, and they were able to get out at break-even plus a little bit to make some profit on the trade. And then it turns back around and we find a huge amount of selling pressure once again, showing that the buyers are now out of the way and the door is basically open for the market to run back down to a low. So a very nice follow-up move back to the downside before we go into the lunchtime session. As we go into the lunchtime session, big slap higher, back into a new high, and that turns the day into a range. And where are we coming from? Well, we have a big move up into the highs of the range. We're looking to sell. We pull back, we tap that high once again, drawing across the highs. We find resistance there and a to-the-tick resistance before the market started turning back down, and the sellers are able to swarm back in for another leg lower. So very interesting day on crude oil with the heavy emphasis on psychology. You have to understand what's happening behind the pictures. The buyers that got in, they were very disappointed But at the same time, the sellers that got in, they were disappointed as well. So it was kind of like a double slap in the face before it finally decided where it wanted to go. And once it decided where it wanted to go, going against that trend made it much more difficult rather than just going with it and having some easy drives lower. So that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you found it interesting, maybe a little bit entertaining, and we'll see you next time.